I invited a very special guest with us today. So get ready to be blown away, guys. AC Ramos is a very well known figure here in the Houston market. This episode is full of takeaways on marketing, staying ahead of the curve, and wholesaling at a high level. So I can't wait for you to join us. By the way, we have a small favor to ask. If you enjoy the show, please leave a review and share it with others. We want to help as many people as possible. Now, let's get to the intro. Hey, ballers! Welcome to episode 115. With me is AC Ramos with Prosperity Group. Hey, AC, thank you for being here today. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Well, besides recording this show with us, what are you working on today?
Oh, today I'm just talking to some private lenders, lining up a couple deals that I'm taking down, and actually lining up one that I'm taking down with actually Jet Lending is going to do the financing on that. So I'm just trying to get stuff lined up. I got a couple of properties I'm trying to pick up today. So that's the good thing, I guess, right? So I'm busy, but at least it's good busy.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about everything you do and all your secrets and all of that. But before we go into that, can you give the audience a quick introductions? I mean, I know who you are, and a lot of people in Houston know who you are. Tell us a little bit about AC.
Okay, so my name is AC Ramos. I actually started in real estate in 1999. Started with rehabbing, so started purchasing properties to rehab and started flipping houses that way, way back in the very beginning, and kind of fell into that. And then I was doing that till about 2003, and up until 2003, I was just partnering with my aunt. We were purchasing properties with her 401k or IRA. I'm not even sure what it was at the time, but I didn't even know that was private money. You know what I mean? I'm using private money. I didn't even know it was private money. And we were flipping houses, but in 2003, we got stuck in a property that we were able to sell it, but we had to sell it owner finance because we went over on the repairs. We went over on what we paid for the property, that kind of stuff, rookie mistakes. So rookie mistakes, and we got stuck in that property. So we owner financed it to sell it, which, meant that we were going to get our money, but not for like 4 years. We had a balloon payment, or, they had to refinance in 4 years. So we weren't going to get our money for 4 years. So I was pretty much dead in the water. The rehabbing business had just kind of died in the water because I didn't have any more funds. And like I said, I didn't know about hard money. I didn't know about private money, all that kind of stuff. So I kind of lost everything I had built up. I got a townhouse for me and my wife and my son. We were living there. Kind of when everything collapsed, there was no more income coming in. So that's when I actually ended up, literally built everything up and just kind of all fell apart on the rehabbing side. And what I realized is I had built a business. I built a job for myself, not built a business. I built a job. So it was a high paying job, but when the money was gone, it was very transactional. I had to keep doing rehabs to keep making money. So I realized it was a lot of work and it was hard. So we got stuck in that. And I actually lost everything and ended up having to live in a storage room behind one of my family members' houses. Because literally we lost the townhouse we were living in. Everything collapsed, So that's how I felt out of the rehabbing game. And then one night I'm watching TV, and I'm sure you've seen these infomercials, learn how to make money with real estate with no money, no brains, no experience. And I was like, that's me.
And a bunch of hot women.
Yeah, right. These are my babes, and this is my boat. So I saw one of those infomercials and actually went to the free class. And then my aunt went with me. She was my business partner at the time and flipping houses with me. So she went with me for that class, and then we ended up signing up for a weekend class. And, we all know about the seminars, all that kind of stuff. Went to the seminar. They ended up obviously pitching a class at the end of the seminar where, they're trying to get you signed up in the program and stuff. And I didn't have a lot of money. My aunt was the only one that had money, and she only had a credit card, and we were just getting started. And they started talking about the wholesaling idea. And they didn't explain everything about wholesaling, but I was like, I didn't believe you could flip a house with no money. Like there's no way.
Yeah.
I was actually a real estate agent at the time. So
Okay.
I'd had my license for like 6 months. So I'm like, that's a fraud. Like they're
Yeah.
lying. You know what I mean? There's no way you can flip a house with no money. But then they in the seminar, they say, well, we could show you how to do this and how to do that. And they were talking about wholesaling. So somehow my aunt actually believed enough in me to put up like the $11,000 that was to go to a 3-day class about wholesaling. So there we go to Fort Worth, take that 3-day class about wholesaling. And by the end of the first day, I was like, I get it. I understand, because I understood the rehabbing.
So it just clicked with you.
It clicked. By lunch at the first day, I knew what we had to do. And so that was a weekend. And then I came back, and it was Monday, November 22nd of 2004 was my first day back in Houston and starting my wholesaling business. And that day, my wife went to work. She worked at a mortgage company. She came home at lunch, and she was just bawling her eyes out. This is my ex-wife, my first wife. She was bawling her eyes out, crying, and she handed me a bag from Walgreens, and there was 3 pregnancy tests in the bag, and they were all positive. So we already had our first son, and now we have a second son coming. So I was like, just don't tell anybody, because we got to get out of this storage room before we tell anybody. Yeah. So and that was my first day starting my wholesaling business. I said, look, at the seminar, they said I could put $5,000 in my pocket in 30 days, right? So we could 30 days, we could put $5,000 in our pocket. So I said, just don't tell anybody that we're pregnant. I'm going to figure this out. And I was like, dude, I'm gonna have to work out a payment plan with my aunt, because she lended me the money to go to that class. But it just so happened that on my 28th day, so my 28th day from starting on November 22nd, we hit our first deal and made $14,000 on that first wholesale deal. That's awesome. So I was able to pay back the $11,000 I had borrowed to go to that class, and I had $3,000 left over. So I used $1,500 to get a small apartment that, looking back on it now, it was pretty crappy, but it was like, it was wonderful at the time. You know, the heat never worked, the air never worked, because it was a chiller system. So when it was hot outside, the heater was on. When it was cold outside, because of our Houston weather, it was always mixing up. But I loved it because it was ours. You know what I mean? Like we did, you know, coming from living in a storage room to that, it was a castle. And then the other $1,500 I used on marketing to buy some bandit signs, and I started putting out bandit signs is how I started. And started turning deals from there, and then hit another deal for $8,000, another deal for $4,000, a deal for $6,000. Ended up making $169,000 that first year wholesaling, and that's what really opened my eyes to real estate, because I already knew the rehab side. I already understood how to fix a house and flip a house, but I couldn't understand, how do you make money without owning it, without real money. And then so that wholesaling was the key piece, because it just made me realize and open my eyes up to the point where there's so many avenues to make money in real estate. That's what I loved about it. And that's what and it showed me that, like, literally, here's somebody who was living in a storage room with their wife and their young son. And I don't know about you, but if anybody's ever tried to make you live in a storage room or asked you to live in a storage room, you might question that a little bit. So it was a drive. It gave me a reason why I wanted to succeed. You know, having my wife, my first wife, and our son living in a storage room is like, that gave me a why. Like, my back was against the wall, and realizing that if I was in that position and could make money and be able to get out of it that fast, that was like an experience I will never forget. And it made me realize that I'm never stuck. I can always wholesale a deal and make some money. Like, it just made me realize how flexible real estate is.
Yeah, you have one of the most inspirational story. And maybe you and I have something in common as to why we have such high drive for what we do. Because, you know, when I first came to America, it was 5 of us, my mom and 4 kids, and we all shared one bedroom, you know. So we weren't in a storage room or anything, you know what I mean? But we all were in one bedroom in a townhouse, a duplex. It was a tiny duplex, and we are in 1 bedroom. So I think that's what make us work so hard to get to where we want to be. So what do you invest in? What are you buying right now? Is it single family, multifamily? This episode is brought to you by Buzz Vacation Rentals, a premier property management company in Houston and Galveston area. Give Buzz a call at 281-549-8432 to learn more about their rent guarantee program, or check out their website at listwithbuzz.com. Now, back to the Real Estate Baller Show.
Right now, well, the ones we have under contract right now, we don't have any multifamily that we've picked up yet. We have about 15 rentals right now, and we're picking up more rentals. So these are 2 more single family houses that we're trying to pick up as rentals right now. Plus we work with our mastermind group to buy even more rentals. So right now we're looking at single family houses. And last year we were able to pick up enough rental properties where we picked up $730,000 in equity. So we captured $730,000 in equity with our mastermind group. Those are properties that we bought with our mastermind group and partnered with them. So that was pretty fun right there, is to be able to purchase rental properties and capture, our goal was $1 million in equity capture, but we fell a little bit short because there was the pandemic. I'm not even going to lie. I got comfortable being at home. You know what I mean? Because, we didn't know what was going on. Yeah. So working from home made it a lot more comfortable. Like, our goal was $1 million in equity capture, but we hit 730 because, like I said, I wasn't going out to look at as many properties. I was trying to do as much from home as possible. I didn't want to leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that. Just had a new baby, so I didn't want to put my family at risk. So I didn't push it as much as I could have because I wanted to play it safe. But I think even with that being the case, and during a pandemic, for us to capture $730,000 in equity was quite an accomplishment. Like,
that ain't bad. Ain't bad.
Yeah, no, it ain't bad.
So take us back to that thought process there in the beginning. You said you went to a class. How much did you have to pay for that class?
That one was so the first one was free. Obviously, it was like the seminar model where you go to the free class, because like our seminars, our process pretty much runs the same.
Yeah.
It's a free 90-minute class to see if you're even interested in real estate. Hey, this is what we offer. And they talked about wholesaling and rehabs and rentals. And I was like, oh, I'm interested in that. And I mostly wanted to learn about the wholesaling. So then at that point they say, hey, if you want to go to this 3-day class, it's $11,000.
$11,000.
So it was $11,000 for that first
obviously
class.
That was a lot of money for you at that time.
Oh, I had no money at that time. So that was very much a lot of money. And they actually wanted 25, and they were going to do 2 3-day weekends. And like, literally we were like, oh, we can't do it. Like, I can't afford it. And they were like, hey, we'll give you 1 3-day weekend for $11,000. And my aunt was able to put it on her credit card, actually. So she believed in me enough to actually put it on her credit card. And it was an American Express. So she was like, we got to pay this off in 30 days. Or she had another card. She put it on a card and said, we have 30 days to pay this off. And I think that she had another American Express card. So she was like, so technically I could transfer from one to the other, but we got 60 days to pay this off. No pressure
at all.
Yeah. So she did that. She believed in me enough to do that. Like, she's more like my mother. My aunt is more like my mother. And she raised me with my grandmother and my grandfather and all my other aunts, but she was the main one. And she's always believed in me, always supported me. So she's the one that put up the money to go to that class. And it was one of the biggest decisions in my life, because literally it gave me the piece that I was missing, that I've gone on and, like, we've made millions of dollars off of wholesaling, millions of dollars in profit from wholesaling now over these since 2004. You know what I mean? So it is something that to know that I got that information for $11,000, or even if I would have paid $100,000 for it, you know what I mean? Knowing what I know now, but that information led to me making so much money and being able to do so much with that, because wholesaling leverages you into buying rentals or to flipping or whatever you want to do. So that knowledge just opened up so many doors for me, I guess you could say.
So if you were to go back to that moment again, knowing what you know today, would you have paid the same 11,000 to take that class?
Easily. I would have paid more. Like I said,
Yeah.
knowing what it was worth to me now,
Yeah.
like I said, what would you pay if somebody said, hey, our best year wholesaling, we made 1.4, almost 1.5 million in wholesale fees.
Uh-huh.
Now I don't get to keep all that because we have a team and everything, but
Yeah.
that's a pretty good amount of money from wholesaling where you don't actually buy a house, you don't actually fix a house, you don't even actually take possession of the house. You're just flipping paper. So that's a pretty good amount of money. So to know that you could generate that kind of money in 1 year from wholesaling, what is that worth to you? And like I said, to me, I would have, if I had the money back then and would have known what it was worth to me, I would have paid 100,000. But luckily it was only 11,000.
But we're not, I mean, not that we're trying to sell any classes or anything, but
Yeah,
you know,
no.
you obviously believe in education, and so do I. But I know there's people who say, well, I can find all this information by listening to podcasts, YouTube, watching YouTube, or, free education. Why would I want to go pay for something?
Yeah, the YouTube university, right?
Right? Yeah.
So, and that is, to me, I get it. Because the first thing I do when I want to learn something is I look on YouTube just to
Right.
get some basic ideas. But the next thing I do is I always go to an expert.
Yeah.
I go to somebody who knows more than me. It's like taxes. I don't do my own taxes. You know what I mean? I probably could figure it out, but I flip houses. I do real estate. I don't want to be a tax specialist. So I go to a specialist and I pay them to use their expertise to get me the best returns, to find me the best deductions, to do whatever their specialty is, right? So I look at it in the same way as like Airbnbs. I just got into Airbnbs. I don't know about Airbnbs. I went and found somebody who knew more about Airbnbs than me. I think I even talked to you about Airbnbs
Yeah,
because
we
you
did.
know more about Airbnbs than me when we were at that event.
Right.
So I go to people who know more than me because that's what their specialty is. I don't want to be a jack of all trades. I want to specialize in what I'm doing and run what I'm doing, and I'll hire somebody to masterminds. I pay like a lot of money to be in masterminds to go and learn more education, right? So to me, it's worth paying to cut the chase. Like I could learn it on YouTube, but how many videos am I going to have to watch on YouTube to get to the real meat and potatoes when I could go straight to a mentor or somebody who knows more than me and get them to show me or teach me? And yeah, I might have to pay for it, but what am I going to make with it? And I think that's a real good thing is like a lot of people think, what is this going to cost me? And entrepreneurs think, what is this going to make me?
Right.
So if I pay this, what am I going to be able to make?
Yeah, totally agree with you there. Because, you got to find the expert to get the help from the expert. That's my takeaway from you. Takeaway number one, get with the expert.
Yes. Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier in your early days, you had to do bandit sign to get deals. Do you think bandit signs still work, or how has that changed from 2004 to now?
So we still do bandit signs, not as much because the sign police do crack down on them here around Houston. Where we have found is in the outskirts of towns like Richmond, so if you're not from Houston, Houston is central, and then you got side like surrounding areas like Richmond, Galveston County, even like Conroe, Montgomery County.
Yeah.
So sometimes we go out in the outskirts where it's a little more rural and a little less city, and out of the Houston area, and we kind of they're not really expecting that, you know what I mean? So we found we have more success in some of those smaller areas where they're not taking down our signs as much. They're not calling us and telling us to pick up our signs or they're going to fine us. Because in Houston, we have started seeing that a lot more. We get a lot of calls from the city saying, hey, you need to come take your signs down or we're going to fine you. So we just had to get creative with it and find new areas. But they do still work.
So how do you go about where you're going to put your signs?
As far as finding an area?
Yes.
So we'll pick an area and then we look for, like, say we're going to do Richmond. So we'll look for like a section of Richmond and we look for all the busy intersections.
Okay.
And we try to print out a map and mark off about 33 to 35 major intersections.
Yeah.
Because if we could find 33 to 35 major intersections where we're going to put signs out, we should be able to throw out 100 signs in that area. But we pick the area just by it's close to Houston and surrounding, but it's not in Harris County.
How many signs do you put out?
We try to do 100 when we do a batch. We try to do 100.
Okay, 100. And do you leave them there, or do you ever come back to pick them up?
We actually leave them. I know some people go back and pick them up. We actually leave them because what we found in these outskirt areas, they're not calling us and making us take them down. Like if we want to do it in Houston, we tried it a couple of times where we put out signs in Houston and then we go back and take them down on Sunday.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of work. You know what I mean? I'd rather just pay somebody to throw them out and just leave them there and find the areas where I don't get too much harassment.
Okay. So what's the ratio? Like when you put out 100 signs, how many calls do you get?
Now that varies a lot. So the thing about bandit signs is I found that you really need to do bandit signs for about 2 months and every week on the same day for about 2 months to really start getting traction on bandit signs. So sometimes we get like 5 calls off of 100 bandit signs, and sometimes we get 25 calls off of bandit signs. It just kind of depends on the area you put it in, and it just kind of varies. That's kind of something you can't judge because how many people are going to pass by and see it and how many people actually need that service at that time. So that kind of varies. So we do it in a bigger chunk kind of mode. If you do it for like 2 months, that should be enough for you to get a deal under contract.
Do you do a fancy printed sign or is it a handwritten sign?
We used to use fancy fancy printed signs. And then we started testing with handwritten signs. And I started realizing that we were getting a better response with the handwritten signs. I've tested printed signs a couple times again.
Yeah.
And the results are that the response rate is getting better for the printed signs now. Somehow we went through some kind of a shift because it used to be pretty signs did well. Then it was handwritten signs. And I think now people have seen so many handwritten signs, they're starting to go back to the printed signs thinking maybe this is just my opinion, but I think when they see a printed sign, they think business, they think corporate. Yeah. When they see a handwritten sign, they're thinking mom and pop.
Right.
So, and I think it just kind of depends on the person you're dealing with also. Do you want somebody who, maybe they dealt with somebody with a handwritten sign and they had a bad experience. So now they want to go with somebody that looks a little more corporate or a little bit more businessy. Now, I don't know the exact reasoning for that, but I am seeing that like the response rate is going up on the printed signs.
Well, so do you think that there's a shift or our sellers are getting more savvy because of all these iBuyers coming out?
I think they're getting more spoiled is what I think they are.
Define spoil.
They're getting spoiled by high offers and it's not really realistic. So if they go on Zillow, like everybody and their mama goes on Zillow and wants to say, well, on Zillow, my house is worth $400,000. And it says, and then you got to kind of tell them, well, that's not the way comps really work. And that's not how you determine value. Because if you look at everything else in the area that looks like yours and is the same size, it's only worth 300. And that's when it's fixed up. And you got to break down the numbers and show them real numbers. So I think they're misled on the value of their house by things like Zillow. What are the other internet buyers? There's a couple of those internet buyers.
Opendoor, OfferPad.
OfferPad and those other ones like that. Like they do get spoiled or delusional about the value of their house. So especially in a market like Houston, because Houston's market is really, really hot right now.
Yeah.
So that's bringing in investors from all over the country. There's people doing virtual wholesaling, virtual marketing from all over the country, marketing right here in our area in Houston.
Right.
And they don't know the values and they may be offering too much. So you got those inexperienced people that don't know the Houston market offering too much. You got Zillow and other iBuyers like that, like giving them unrealistic values on their properties. So, and then they're getting calls every day, probably from a different investor. So And we're comfortable here. We haven't hit the type of market where people have to sell, right? Job loss isn't as bad here as it is in other places.
Right.
So we're comfortable, and I don't think our sellers really realize that they're being unrealistic about the value of their house. And then unfortunately, I think they're not even going to realize that until things get a little bit tighter.
I agree. Whenever people tell me, well, Zillow says my house is worth X and X, I said, well, why don't you call Zillow and see what they pay you for it?
Exactly.
Will they pay you their Zillow's estimate for your house?
Yeah. They might give you a contract, but I doubt they'll buy it.
Exactly. They're never closed. So beside bandit signs, what are some other ways that you do marketing to get deals in today's market?
Our main way of drumming up leads and our lead flow. Well, actually, we have 3 things that we do right now that are our main sources for marketing. The bandit signs, like I said, that's not really one of our main things. We do it here and there now because of the restrictions that we've hit and found because of doing that. Mm-hmm. So it's a little more sporadic, but we're very consistent with cold calling. Yeah. We do about 40,000 cold calls a month. We have virtual assistants or virtual callers that just make phone calls and call. We pull the list, we skip it, and we get it input into our dialer systems, and our VAs just call. Our virtual callers just cold call. So we make about 40,000 cold calls a month, and we do about 20,000 text message drops a month. And then we're also finding deals on the MLS.
On MLS? Yeah. Tell us about that.
That takes a lot of research and time. So I have one guy who just constantly is looking for deals on the MLS. We're looking for deals that are, been on the market a little while. Mm-hmm. Maybe they were asking too much. And mm-hmm. they, what I found is, when you list something on the MLS and you list it high, mm-hmm. sometimes you'll get some decent offers right in the beginning. And this mm-hmm. is what a lot of realtors and a lot of sellers don't understand is mm-hmm. when you list something on the MLS, you got all these eyes that see it. Mm-hmm. Everybody makes their bid right around there, or they think, oh, that's too high. Yeah. And if you list high, you run the risk of after those first couple of weeks, and you don't get what you want for it, and people aren't making offers because they think you're too high. And then after a few weeks, people think, oh, what's wrong with the property? Right. Oh, there must be something wrong if they haven't sold it. And now it's been 60 days, 90 days on the market. And now they're not getting the offers that they were even getting in the beginning. Yeah. So now they're even more motivated. So we're going after those type of listings and talking to the realtors and finding and kind of filling them out who's motivated. And if they're motivated, we pass it on to our acquisition person, our closer, and they try to lock up the deal with the agent, and we get it locked up. And if it's a good enough deal, we want to buy it. And if not, actually, there's some good deals that we want to buy, but they may not even be in our area because we're trying to focus on certain areas now. So we'll wholesale those out and then keep the ones that we want in the areas that we like.
So with cold calling, you just have a VA to do like X number of calls per day. And then their goal is to try to set an appointment for your acquisition person?
Yeah. And we have four virtual callers that are constantly calling.
How often do you knock that list? Or
we hit the list every 3 months. We'll go over it again every 3 months.
Okay. That's very amazing. I hear that that's the new thing for a lot of people, the cold calling and the text messaging.
Yes, because we're and we make sure that we do everything the right way because we scrub against the do not call list. Yeah. So we don't call anybody on the DNC, the do not call list. We try to be very compliant. We use a texting system that sends out one text at a time. You gotta send out a text at a time, that kind of stuff. So we try to be very compliant with all the laws and stay away from the do not call list and everything like that.
How do you, your response rate or your ratio in that, is that better than your bandit sign? How do you measure that?
Yes, so it's easier to measure that way. So with cold calling, we get about a 14 to 17, anywhere from 10 to 17% contact rate. Depends on the list, depends on the time of day we're calling that list and different variables like that. But we look for a 10 to 17% contact rate. Out of the contacts that we make, we get about, so yeah, 10 to 17% contact rate. And out of all of those contact rates, we end up with about a 1 to 3% lead conversion. So out of all the calls that we make, it'll filter down to about 1. So if we send out 10,000, hang on,
let's say we do 100 calls.
Yeah, right? Let's say 100 calls. So on 100 calls, we'll get in contact with 10 to 17 people. And
the people who actually picked up the phone.
That actually picked up the phone. Okay. And we'll get 1 to 3 leads out of that.
Okay, then 3 leads. And then do you actually close on those 3 leads?
No, that's just a lead. That just means that they were interested in talking to us. And then out of the leads, we're getting about, a 10% conversion rate of 10 leads. We'll probably get 1 conversion into a contract.
Okay. You guys have good ratio, 10 leads to 1 contract.
And it depends on what avenue it's coming in off of. Yeah, but we're having a good contact rate and like I said, 10 to 17%. And then that filters down to 1 to 3% of leads, which will be even less of a percentage technically of the total for contracts. But of those leads, we're getting about 10% converted.
So that takes a lot of legwork into scrubbing the initial list that you got, because you have to qualify the lead, the list.
Yeah, so we pull the list, we skip trace it, we scrub it against the DNC, and then we get the clean list that will upload into the dialer system for our VAs or into the texting system.
That's very cool. Are there certain type of property that you go after?
I love absentee owners, and we do a lot of compounds or compounding motivations. So if it's absentee owner, then we'll also do absentee owners absentee owners out of state, or absentee owners out of state and have high equity. You know what I mean? So we're going after everything high equity, but say we're going vacant houses with high equity with owners that live out of state. So that way we stack our motivations. We have more of a chance of finding somebody who is probably going to be interested in selling rather than contacting somebody who owns the house and lives in it. We do some of those kind of campaigns, but our bread and butter is absentee owners with high equity that live out of state.
So it doesn't matter the year, the age of the property, the size of the property, none of that.
Not for me, because my theory is if we get anything at the right price, we can wholesale anything.
Is there a certain margin that you try to stay within?
As far as the price of the property?
Margin in terms of your profit.
Profit? I mean, we're averaging about $10,000 or $11,000 per deal right now. It's starting to go up a little bit per deal.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that we are getting a little bit more on the assignment deals per deal.
Yeah.
So that's going up. It's about $10,000 or $11,000 right now. I think creeping up to like 12. So we like to aim for 10. We say 10, but if it comes down to it, we've done deals where we only made $3,000 or even $1,000. We've actually done deals for free because something's come up and maybe we feel sorry for the seller because they're in a bad situation or something like that, and we couldn't get what we wanted for it. But yeah, my goal is actually just getting the deal closed, because to keep your name and your reputation up.
Yeah.
Always try to make sure you get the deal closed. But you never go broke taking a profit, right? So
right.
as we aim for 10, but we'll take any profit's a good profit.
So this is for wholesaling, meaning you make money by assigning the deal. You don't take possessions, you don't close.
Yes, correct? Yeah, that's for the wholesaling side of the business.
Okay. So quick in and out, get your profit and move on.
Yeah. And we'll even say we want to pick up a property, like Ceci and I want to pick up a property and keep it as a rental, or even if I'm picking up a property with one of my mastermind students or something like that, we blast out the deal to our list and we see what kind of offers we got on it. And if we're willing to match the highest offer, then we'll buy it just like any other cash buyer, because that's how my wholesaling team gets paid. Yeah. So we did one recently where we picked up the property under contract for $60,000 on the wholesale side.
Yeah.
Now I could have probably sold this thing for $120,000 wholesale, because it's in a very good area, and I know landlords would pay a lot for it. So, but we wholesaled it to ourselves for $100,000. We blasted it out in the first couple of days. We got $100,000 offer. So we're willing to match that $100,000 offer. So we'll make $40,000 on the assignment fee, but we're gonna and we'll pick up the property for $100,000 plus closing costs.
Yeah.
We're gonna put about $35,000 into repairs on that property, and the ARV is about 180 to 190.
Amazing. So your lowest deal, you said you go as low as 3,000 for your wholesale fee or assignment fee. What's the highest?
I'll go down as low as 500 if I have to. I can make the deal work.
Love that. What about the most profitable deal?
Wholesale?
Yeah.
My biggest wholesale amount was 55,000.
That's very cool.
Yeah, we've done a lot of 40,000s, one other 50,000. But for some reason, and I know I've got students that have done $100,000 wholesales.
Yeah.
Me personally, my biggest one was 55,000.
Hey, that's good enough, right?
Hey, yeah, right.
You only need two of those a month.
That will work.
That works, yeah. So, do you feel like you have to make adjustment in your business in what I call today is the new normal?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. There was a big pivot we had to make.
So what are you doing differently today versus before?
You would be surprised, but I thought we were pretty virtual before, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, when I started this business as a one-man show and I was doing wholesaling on my own, like I was doing about 25 to 35 deals a year on my own. And I never went and saw the house most of the time. I was closing deals on the phone. So I thought, and that's back when nobody else was doing that, because that's back in 2004 all the way till now. I still close deals on the phone and teach my team to close deals on the phone.
Yeah.
But I thought we were pretty virtual just by doing that. But now with this, the pandemic and coronavirus and everything that's going on and the shutdowns we faced and everything, and everybody staying in quarantine for a while there, we got even more virtual. Like we used to have an office where everybody came in. Yeah. And our team would come in every day. They'd meet there. We'd talk, hang out, and we're working deals. Well, now everybody's working from home. Like so now we have our callers that are in the Philippines, so they're virtual. Yeah. They're passing leads to my lead manager who lives in Atascocita. And then the lead manager is passing the leads over to our acquisition person who lives in Cyprus. And then, you know what I mean? And so everybody's working from home. And it's even more virtual than before. Now we're doing a lot of Zoom meetings. So we do a Zoom meeting once a week. Yeah. So we do a Zoom meeting once a week that we used to do that meeting in person. Now we do it on Zoom. So it's just amazing how much, like technically we could be in other states. Like I said, some of our callers are in another country. So it just opened up my eyes to how much more we could push that. You know what I mean? I thought we were doing pretty virtual and we're closing deals on the phone. But that pushed us into another comfort zone, out of our comfort zone into another zone. And then once we got comfortable with that, now we're starting to see that we're doing deals in other states. You know, we just picked up a deal in Chicago. We were trying to sell a deal in Alabama. We just picked up one in El Paso or Mesquite, Texas, or something like that. Yeah. So those other areas like that, it's like if you can do it here and everybody's working from home, that pivot was just like one more step. And it's like, hey, why can't we do South Carolina? Why can't we do Philadelphia? Why can't we do Chicago?
Well, so the old school investing is, okay, you got to go look at the property, right? You got to see it with your eyes to make sure to know what you're buying. But you guys, you don't even you see it in person. Is that right?
Yeah, most of the time we don't even see the property until after we have it under contract. And then we go out there mostly to get pictures and do videos so we can show our buyers.
Okay. So you have someone who actually would go out to the property once you're under contract.
Yeah, the acquisition person will go out to the property. If the acquisition person can't go, we can get a runner to go. And we got people that we can pay to go get pictures and stuff like that.
Okay, so you tell them exactly what you're looking for when they go.
Yes. And when we're dealing out of state, usually we have somebody we're working with in that area, and then they can do the footwork, like going to get the pictures or getting a lockbox on it or something like that.
So, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Ooh, that's a good one. Is realizing that everything is in the numbers. I wasn't as good at tracking numbers in the beginning and figuring out what really worked. And I think, like a lot of entrepreneurs in the beginning, like money just started coming in, right? We hey, let's do this, and it's like bam, just you start making money, and you're like, wow, I must be good. You know what I mean? Like you're starting to make money, but then you don't realize what you're really spending on marketing and what you're really bringing in. Like, because like I said, if we bring in $1.5 million or $1 million in a year, you're not making $1 million in profit. You know what I mean? Like people are like, oh wow, $1 million business. It's like, no, if you bring in $1 million, how much of that was overhead? How much of that was marketing? How much of that was payroll to your team? And then what are you really left with? And then, as an entrepreneur, usually on a business, you're left with about 20 to 30% after everything is said and done. And that's pretty good. Like Coca-Cola, they're left with like 5% profit after everything because they're so huge. So realizing that everything's in the numbers and tracking my marketing better in the beginning
Yeah.
would have definitely helped me.
I think you touched on something very important as far as the what you ended up with. 20 to 25% is actually very, very good ratio. I think I was listening to or reading an article somewhere. Most business owner actually end up with 5 to 8%.
Yeah. And luckily in this business, we tend to do a little bit better than that. Cause especially wholesaling, because you really don't have a lot, you don't have to have a lot of overhead. It's
Yeah.
marketing cost and stuff like that. Now in the buy and hold section, you can make even more profit or equity for say profit. It's equity that you can't eat yet until you cash it out. But the return looks a lot better there. You know what I mean? So, but you can't eat that. But like in wholesaling, there's not really a lot of overhead besides your marketing. You can work from home. You can work from a Starbucks, or you can work from even a cheap, like one of those offices where you have shared workspaces. Like you can keep your overhead really low in wholesaling, which is different than other brick and mortar businesses where you have to have an
Yeah.
office space. You have to have inventory. Like if you sell computers, you have to buy a bunch of computers and have them laid out. With wholesaling, it's not literally making money out of thin air, but it's as close to it as you're going to find in any business. So your overhead, you can make more of a profit margin. Like I said, 20 to 30%, even if you're doing it wrong. That's the thing about real estate and wholesaling is there is a good amount of money you can make there. And even if you mess up, you can still make a good profit margin.
I think it's a really forgiving business.
Oh man, you've been in this business a while. I know we probably know a few people that are dumber than a box of rocks and do very well in real estate.
Yeah, yeah. I
I'm
think
probably one of them.
no, no, I don't agree with that. One of the guests I interviewed in the previous episode, he said there's so many ways of doing a deal that the only wrong way is if you actually going to lose money, because there's so many different ways to do a deal. So there's no one right way to do
Yeah,
something.
I
Um,
agree.
so in your position, what are some of the challenges that you are facing today?
So today, the way my business operates now is I'm more of the money person and the big relationships.
Mhm.
So I'm constantly meeting with private lenders to build up reserves to either use as funding for the projects, like all together,
Mhm.
or raising money to use as gap funding to be able to leverage into more projects. So that's kind of my position in the company, is leveraging my relationships to build up our private money reserves and handling any big problems that come up. Because usually the team can handle it. Acquisition people they know how to deal with the sellers. Our closing coordinator knows how to deal with the buyers and
Mhm.
every issue that could come up there. But sometimes there's something that comes up that just needs my attention. You know what I mean? Like, and they'll bring me in to solve those big problems. And it's usually like, oh, this buyer wants their earnest money back, and we're about to close, and they just don't want to do it, and then I got to come in and smooth everything out, or whatever the case may be, just
Yeah.
something that they couldn't handle, or that needed my attention, and then building the big relationships with our private money lenders, like I said, and finding enough deals to be able to put together with our private lenders and private money and our mastermind students. So that's kind of my job, is finding deals, finding money, and putting everything together.
So how do you make sure you stay ahead in this industry?
Oh man, that is a good question. I listen to a lot of other people, and I'm always paying attention to what's working and not working for other people in the industry. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time, and I know a lot of people are like, oh man, when you think you know everything, you might as well start hanging it up, because that's when you're going to start to fail. Because even up till a few years ago, direct mail was our big form of marketing, right? We were sending out 30 to 60,000 pieces of mail every month.
Yeah.
Like I said, now we're not really doing a lot of direct mail. We do some, but not a lot. We mostly are doing like cold calls, text messages. So you have to pay attention to what's working in the market and be ready to make a shift and make a change, and not hold yourself back that way. You know what I mean? Because if you're not quick to catch on to what's working, you can get left behind real quick and take yourself into debt. And you know what I mean? Because if you're not paying attention to the type of marketing and the returns you're getting, and you keep spending money on ways that aren't working, then you don't have enough deals to cover your overhead. You're out of business real quick. So you need to just pay attention to what's working and not working in your industry. And for me, I watch a lot of other people that do what I do. I join masterminds of people that are doing more than I am. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I used to think, oh man, well, I'm doing 100 deals a year. Man, I'm pretty cool, or whatever. And then I go into a mastermind and sit in a room with somebody who's doing 300 deals or even 1,000 or 1,500 deals in a year. And then you're like, ooh, man, I suck. But that pushes you to want to be better. Uh-huh. So I think that's the thing, is watching other people, seeing what's working, and never being afraid to learn from somebody else. Because when you think you know too much and you can't learn from somebody else, that's when you start to fail. I truly believe that. When you think you know everything and you're like, oh, I don't need, and I hear people do it all the time. Well, I don't need to listen to that person, or I'm not going to study that method, because what I'm doing is fine. And I know what I'm doing. I know what works. But sometimes then you get slapped in the face when something changes. Like if you're still doing direct mail and only direct mail, you know what I mean? You're not paying attention to the markets that are working now and everything like that, you're not going to get the return you need to sustain your business.
Besides talking to people, where else do you look so that you can spot out the turn in the market?
Watching, I mean, as far as like the marketing types and stuff, or just seeing what's going on in the market?
Seeing what's going on in the market, because you have to be able to see that ahead of time to kind of start pivoting your business model or making adjustments to your business model, right?
Yeah. So as far as the market, we're always paying attention to the days on market, the areas on market that have the most sales. So that kind of research keeps us knowing where the hot areas are. Mm-hmm. And for me, I'm constantly looking for the next area. So, I mean, you remember, man, I've been doing this for a while, but when I first started wholesaling, Sunnyside was not a place that people were really wanting to buy. You know what I mean? Like a lot of investors stayed away from Sunnyside. Yeah. And the ones that did buy over there, carried guns with them all the time, to go collect their rent or to go look at properties. We were picking up properties for like $6,000. And I'm talking about a lot with a house on it, picking it up for $6,000.
Not today.
Not today, and wholesaling it for 8 or 12. Yeah. Now, we're picking them up for 40 or 50 or 60 and wholesaling them for 50, 60, 70. Yeah. And then people are putting work into them and they're worth 130, 140, 150. It's that market has come up. And so I'm always looking for the next area like that. So right now I'm buying lots, and I'm building new houses on some lots and duplexes. And my new area is the Cashmere Gardens, Trinity Gardens area, the 77028 zip code. Yeah. And there was nobody in that area 3 years ago, really. When I started working in that area 3-4 years ago, literally one of the houses I picked up I got the house and the lot for $17,000. We put 80,000 into redoing the house, which pretty much we rebuilt the whole house. We just kept like one wall and extended it. So 80 and 17. So we're into for like 97, $100,000 about, and then some fees and stuff like that. That house appraised for 155, 145 back then.
Yeah.
It's now worth 175. It's 175 to 190. Because like right now the market is so hot. I bet if we put it on the market, we could probably sell it for 190.
So you have it rented. You have it rented now?
I have it rented for about $1,400 a month right now. Me and Ceci have that as one of our rentals. So yeah, so it's rented. It looks like new construction too, and it's only 2 or 3 years old. So, or 4 years old, something like that. You know what I mean? But it still looks brand new. We took everything down to the studs. Like I said, we only kept one wall. Everything else is new. So we don't have to worry about a water heater. We don't have to worry about a roof leak. We don't have to worry about siding. The house is pretty much brand new. It makes us cash flow, and that area is appreciating. Like I said, we never count on appreciation, but we're not dumb. We know that appreciation should happen. So we just try to pick areas that we believe are going to appreciate well. And like I said, we make money when we buy because we buy at a discount, and the appreciation is an added bonus. You know what I mean? That's where your wealth is built.
Oh yeah, I mean, tell me about it. I have a few rental now, and with the kind of appreciation rate we've been getting over the past year or so, they're looking really, really good.
Well, yeah. So even HAR, the Houston Association of Realtors, or HAR.com, I read an article on there where they were predicting 21.8% annual growth in some of the areas of Houston. Like one of those areas was like Bel Air and 59, which is where I just picked up a property. We picked it up for 142. We put 28,000 into fixing it up, and it's appraised at 225. You know what I mean? So we have 50,000 in equity right there in that house. And that 50,000, if you adjust for 7% annual growth, we will double our money in about 3 years. And that's going conservative compared to what HAR's numbers are, saying 21.8% in some of these areas. I'm adjusting for 7%, and anything above a 7 in these areas that I'm buying, these hot areas, anything above a 7 would be just a bonus. But I don't think we're going to have any problem hitting that 7% in these areas that we're buying, like Sagemont area. I really like the Sagemont area.
I've always done well in that area too.
77074, that Bel Air and 59 area. So those kind of areas are we're seeing that they're going to grow. Their annual growth is going to be nice.
Wow, this has been a really good interview, because every time I look at the clock and said, well, maybe I should wrap it up, and then you say something really cool, and then I keep going. So I know we're getting on top of the hour, so let's jump into a couple of final questions. What is the one thing that people might be surprised to learn about you?
Wow, I'm a dork. I mean, my wife will probably tell you that, but I don't watch a lot of TV. I mean, but what I do watch is there's a show about Oak Island on the History Channel. So it's about them digging and looking for like old treasure, like history stuff. Like I watch a lot of History Channel when I do watch stuff. Star Wars, I'm a big Star Wars geek. So, I think, that may not be a surprise to a lot of people, because I got a lot of stuff. Like I got my lightsabers always behind me, and my R2-D2. I got R2-D2 right behind me over here. So I got my R2-D2. I got my lightsabers. Like I'm just a dork. You know what I mean? It's like, I think when people meet me, matter of fact, people have told me, they're like, wow, you're a lot more laid back and approachable than I thought you were going to be. And I think part of that is, I'm a pretty big dude. You know what I mean? So I guess when people see me out as like, I'm a bigger guy, so I look intimidating. My wife says I have a resting, a face that looks like I'm not approachable sometimes. Like I guess when I'm thinking, I look mean, I guess. So I think one of the surprising things is I'm a dork, and I'm very approachable and very laid back. I like people. I like to talk. I like communication. I'll talk with the person that's checking me out at the grocery store, and I'll tell them about real estate and tell them about whatever. And I'll just start talking. And I know my wife gets embarrassed and is like, stop talking to people.
That's very cool. I know the first time I ever met you, we were at a networking event, and everyone was like, you gotta talk to AC. AC is like the man of real estate." And then you were pulling up in this like fancy sport car, the two-door fancy sport car.
I do
And
like
I'm like,
fast cars too. That's another that is true.
yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I need to learn to talk to AC. But you were right. You were unapproachable at the time.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird time because we were doing a lot of stuff and we were doing a lot of deals and we were doing, at the time we had a lot of seminars going on. And yeah, that was kind of a weird ride right back then because I remember that event. And it was, there's a lot of people that want to get information.
Yeah.
And that will, I mean, now because you're a public figure now. Like, yeah, you were just getting started then, but you've evolved to where I see you at events and people are approaching you. So you know how it is. It's like you kind of get caught in the whirlwind. But yeah. But surprisingly, I mean, I do like to talk to people. I do like engaging with people, but it was just hard. Everybody would come around at the same time.
No, thanks for being here, and I'm glad we got to know each other over the years and becoming friends. Last question: how does the audience get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me through support@prosperitygroup.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me because if you want it, they will catch me because I don't answer my phone very much and I don't check a lot of my emails until I know it's coming. So support@prosperitygroup.com is the best way to get a hold of me.
Well, that's all for today's episode of the Real Estate Ballers Show. Thanks for watching, and thank you, AC, for joining me today. Don't forget to visit our website at REBallers.com to learn more about us. If you found value in this show, we appreciate a thumb up, or if you simply tell a friend about us, that would help too. And please hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss another show. And if you ended up getting tips or using the key away from AC, please share with us in the comment section. Thank you. We'll see you again soon.